My name is Fuli Pereira. I'm the curator of the Pacific collections here. We have quite an extensive Pacific collections. It's one of our, it's one of the best Pacific collections in the world. But as far as t-shirts, I probably have the largest collection of t-shirts as well. And when we come to do exhibitions, we have quite a cast of exhibition people to bring exhibitions together. When we work with our designers, we say to him, you know, this is what we're going to do, these are the types of collections that we want to put into the show, and this is the kind of the ambience, the feel, the look that we're after. And so initially we said to him, you know, this is youth-oriented exhibition, and specifically Māori and Pacific as a kind of target audience. So we have youth, Pacific, Māori, quite urban. And so he went away with those kinds of words ringing in his ear, and he came back. This was his concept for this gallery, and you can see how different or how similar his views were when he came back. These were the drawings. Oh, and so one of the key components of exhibitions that happen here is the film. So there's always kind of a film component. This was his colour palette. So, and his thinking was, you know, my reaction was, oh my gosh, you know, this is a Rastafarian show, which is absolutely not what we're after. And we also wanted a table for activity happening, and so he came up with, you know, with a table in the shape of a t-shirt. And we, the curatorial staff, there are two of us, felt that that was just a little bit too kind of twee. And some of our other feedback was, you know, we're not all that enamoured of this kind of colour scheme or the way that he'd arranged it or envisaged it. And, you know, in talking with him, and his idea is, this is the sky, you know, and the landscape. And it was a very, you know, un-urban look, if that makes any sense. So we, you know, we said, yeah, that's great, but not quite what we're after. Could you please go away and rethink the whole process? And so we, in the meantime, we had been talking to Janet Lilo, who's a young moving image artist who we actually contracted to do the film in the end. And so she spoke to, this is our designer David, and so there's just an image of him talking to her and talking over some new ideas that he had for the show. And what he came back was vastly different from, you know, these early concept CAD drawings, CAD images. And so his new approach, and this happens all the time, and this took something like 6 to 8 weeks just to have those conversations with Janet and with our designer David. And I don't know, maybe it was, you know, David is Scottish, and he hadn't lived here very long, and so he was still coming to terms, I think, a little bit with Māori and Pacific as New Zealand youth audience. And so he went away, rethought his whole approach, and took photos of a much more kind of urban New Zealand landscape. And so this is Mount Eden, which is not far from here, and took, you know, more inspiration from maybe that sort of look. And primarily it was his colour palette changed from, you know, this kind of really bright colouring to a much more muted kind of thing that he saw in, you know, on our landscape. And this is the much more muted colorscape that he came up with, you know, linking to what he saw on the street. And so so his drawings became much more muted as far as his colour palette. And then because we were talking about a T-shirt show, he was also looking at how that idea can be reflected in an exhibition. So this was a very stripped back, very a much more formal space, and he came up with an idea of maybe dressing the gallery, the exhibition, in a much more kind of organic way. So he came back with these shots of shows that he'd seen on the net or he'd experienced himself. And so you see how he's translated those ideas to this space. So this is an existing fabric. The idea is to kind of wrap the space, and since we had this fabric, he decided to go with that idea. And so we started to see, he just came to a meeting with these images and was like, oh, well, I don't know, how's it going to look? And so he mocked up. What they do is, I might be able to show you a little bit later, a space in our exhibitions workrooms where they can actually mock up sections of display cases. And so anyway, that was those were some of the ideas David, the designer, was playing with when he reconceptualized the space. And so, having gone from this very kind of pared back and quite bare space, he decided, much more organic shapes, and that's how we came to reconfigured walls and wrapping in fabric. Again, this whole fabric theme going on. He pared back the activity table to a much less kind of obvious form to what you see here. And what you see here is actually screen printing screens that were donated to the museum from a printing firm. These images come from our very extensive pictorials collection. We have a very good reference library upstairs, which is another thing that we kind of felt strongly we needed, was to include some of the historic photos. Not that they're very historic, they're from, I think, like the 60s and 70s, but we did want, to kind of hint and make that link with the reference collection upstairs. Kind of much more in keeping with the theme, rather than, this kind of T-shirt form table that he came up with. And we were all, kind of much happier with that look. And then you'll probably have noticed that the only collection items in this exhibition are the T-shirts outside, and really only I think it's the top rows, the middle rows that are, have perspex over them, are actually collection items. The others have been loaned in from other people. And this is just an example of, once we come to do exhibitions, we do a database search for all of we thought we'd search for all of our T-shirts. And the initial mistake we made was we entered T-shirts, T-E-E-S-H-I-R-T, and came up with something like 7. And we thought, damn, there goes our exhibition. But what you put in is what you get out. And what we learnt later was that this is how people were actually labelling the T-shirts as they were entering them on our database. So we went back and did another look at it. And what we came back with, our machine spat out something like 80 T-shirts in our collection. And so we have a whole, kind of range of T-shirts came up. And then of that range of T-shirts that we have in our collections, and they go from Pacific, there are some Māori, there are applied arts, and there are history departments. So we did the whole span of the human history collections. And then from there, as curators, we have to pare it right down to an essential grouping with the help of our designer, who has obviously designed these walls. So it's figuring out how many of those we can afford to keep as collection-only spaces, and how many we have to fill with external loans to fill out some of the ideas that we wanted to explore with this exhibition. And so this is from the World Fashion Group, and we have quite a few from them, but we have a lot of like political, anti-nuclear t-shirts. We have collections from fashion houses. We also have, this is our museum's, I think it's 50th birthday celebratory t-shirt. And so we have, a huge range of material. We also have, this is one of our Pacific t-shirts, and then we have, Dawn Raid Entertainment is a Pacific music company. And so we have a huge range of different kinds of t-shirts and the issues that they address. And so as curators, what we need to do is to think sensibly, how do you represent the different kind of facets that t-shirts talk about, and the meanings they have for people. And so rather than get all of these 80 t-shirts out, usually what we do is something more like that. We just print them all out, look at them, and it does have to do about colour, so making sure you don't have like a whole line of black t-shirts, because primarily we have black t-shirts. You've probably been around New Zealand and Auckland long enough to realise that New Zealanders love their black t-shirts for whatever reason. And so it's keeping colour separated, it's trying to get a representative range of t-shirts. So there we have huge Defence Force peacekeeping duties out in the Pacific as well as internationally. So we did feel it was important that we represented them. There's a huge subculture of Harley Davidson types, racing car types, and then there's an Iron Maiden t-shirt, and it's Metallica, and so it was, do we have Metallica or Iron Maiden, or how do we do this? And it would just have to go with what we have. And then there are the Māori anti-nuclear and a few cultural ones. We have Chinese, that was the t-shirt designed for the Year of the Dragon, which is this year. Classic New Zealand, Keep New Zealand Beautiful, that's been around since about the 70s, I think. As curators, we wanted to make connections with externals, so it gave us the opportunity to talk to t-shirt producers and designers. So we have been talking with people like Huffer, who do these ones, and they're quite well-known brands in New Zealand. So it gave us opportunities to work with people like Huffer and Mr. Vintage and others. Let's go and I'll show you where we keep these things and just do a quick recce of our storerooms.